Until a few years ago, there was almost nothing written about Gobekli Tepe, just a couple of specialist articles in archaeological journals, maybe a website or two. The only reason I learned about it in the first place was I saw 1 minute of TV. It was a documentary about early man, and the presenter was sitting beside a megalith somewhere in Turkey and said, this place is 12,000 years old, and then he moved on to some other subject. But I thought, my God, this is amazing, this is absolutely mind-blowing. 12,000 years old, that's 8,000 years old in the pyramids. So 3 days later, I was so compelled by this, I jumped on a plane, flew to Istanbul, flew from there to Sanliurfa, way out in the wild east of Turkey, got a cab from Sanliurfa out into the desert and found the temple of Gobekli Tepe. I could have written the Genesis secret as a piece of travel writing or maybe journalism. Somehow that didn't fit the place itself because it's such an extraordinary site and surrounded by so many amazing myths and religions and legends. It demanded the speculative arena of fiction. In my opinion, Gobekli Tepe is arguably the most important archaeological site in the world today. It totally revolutionises our understanding of the history of early man. You have to remember this place was built 12,000 years ago, to the end of the Ice Age, when people didn't have agriculture, there was no writing, no pottery, they didn't have the wheel, there was nothing. They were living in caves, wearing loincloths, and yet they built this complex and beautiful temple with gorgeous carvings. So it totally upends our way of looking at how advanced men could be in the Neolithic era. I met the chief archaeologist, Klaus Schmidt, who very graciously showed me around his amazing site, and we had an extraordinary and fascinating conversation where I asked him about the Eden myths associated with the temple. In fact, I asked him straight out, do you believe it is the site of the Garden of Eden, as was being speculated at the time? I expected him to say nothing, but he said, it is not the Garden of Eden, it is a temple in Eden, which was quite a striking quote from a very serious scientist. There are many links between the Eden myth in the Bible and Gobekli Tepe. Geographically and topographically, it fits the descriptions of Eden we see in the Bible. It is near the rivers Tigris and Euphrates, as described in the Bible. It is surrounded by mountains, as described in the Bible. In fact, this is the landscape which is described and expressed on the megaliths. The carvings of deer and boar and snakes and waterfowl seem to express a kind of wistful regret for the lost Eden. There are many mysteries about Gobekli Tepe, how a pre-agricultural society could have built such an amazing temple complex and designed such gorgeous carvings. But one of the most curious mysteries is the fact that it was buried in 8000 BC, deliberately buried, which is a massive undertaking by cavemen. It must have taken them decades to amass all the earth, cover the sculptures and the megaliths in tons and tons of soil. So my theory, such as it is that because of the transition from hunter-gathering to agriculture, there was a trauma in the soul of man and a kind of guilt or shame or remorse, which meant that they wanted to bury the symbol of their previous freedom. It was maybe it tormented them, maybe it was too painful, but for such maybe that guilt and shame led them to conceal their temple. Maybe they wanted to hide it from the wrathful gods who would cast them into the perdition of agriculture. Archaeologists know for a fact that wheat and corn and sheep and pigs were first domesticated in the area around Gobekli Tepe. This is where the move to agriculture first took place. This is where the fall of man took place, from a time when we could pluck fruit from the trees to a time when we had to dig the soil as is described of Adam in the book of Genesis. I do personally believe that this is metaphorically the site of the Garden of Eden. Definitely a literary fashion at the moment for books, thrillers and novels which contain a large element of truth. So what marks out the Genesis secret as being different? Well, I think I've given it some lush and lyrical prose, so I've tried to apply some really strong storytelling techniques. But also, I like to think I've described most of human history and the origins of all major religions, which isn't bad for a thriller.